Good morning. This is Nancy from Spirit Creations. And I have a fun project this morning that I'd like to share. I'm going to be carving a stamp that actually right at the moment I'm more concerned about it being a clay mold than I am stamping on paper. I'm getting ready for the annual Pediatric Memorial Service that our hospital does for all of the children and infants who, for their families that have passed away over the last year, and I think families are invited for 2 years, to come and join us, and we do a memorial service in remembrance of, particularly of the infants. A lot of times when families have the loss of an infant at birth or even early into the pregnancy, they don't get the normal grieving path that people do when a normal death happens. And I shouldn't say normal because infants and children die every day. So that is normal, as sad as we don't want to admit that. But it's more that society doesn't provide the more formalized ways of recognizing the importance of those lives. And so we do a memorial service every year. And I was looking at a website by Carly Marie. It's called Carly Marie Project Heal.com, and she does a wonderful job of providing, if people wanted to do it just on their own without an institution behind them, which I think is a fantastic idea. Now, she lives somewhere where there's oceans, and they do it outside with a bonfire, and they make these beautiful ornaments that you can wear around your neck or that you could hang somewhere in remembrance. And that reminded me that when my own child died, the hospital sent this butterfly. And it meant so much to me at the time that I hung it on the front door. And it has remained on the front door until I took it down this morning to bring it down to videotape it. And I decided that I would like to try and do this sort of an idea, not a butterfly, but this sort of an idea for our families for the memorial service this year. Now, I have about 2 weeks, and I will need to make probably 25 or 30 of whatever it is that I do. So I am going to need to find a way to make something that's pretty quick. And I haven't carved a rubber stamp in a very long time, although I use the ones that I have carved all the time. And I just realized that I didn't pull any of those out. But I have carved on a lot on erasers. I like erasers. My favorite ones are actually kind of oval-shaped ones that I got a package of 6 of them at Big Lots and just carved various things. And they're just very fun because they're small. They fit into areas where you have a blank spot. But I do also have, and I'm going to use today, the artist carving block. And these are super easy to carve if I remember how to do it. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to put my pattern on here, and I don't want to mess up the whole block because I like to use as much of it as I can. And so this is the image that I came up with. And I, for the life of me, cannot sit down and draw something, but I am very good at sitting down and cutting something. So I very often have to cut my pieces and then trace around them. And so that's why these look kind of strange, is because that's what I did. But they will be just fine to get the pattern on to the carving block. Now, you can laugh. This is one of my favorite tools. This is, from my childhood days, it's a Ginsu knife. So it's very, very old, but it cuts anything. And it will cut right through this plastic, right through the eraser, in no time flat. Just like that. And carving erasers does give you crumbs. Okay. So this feels very much like an eraser. I've never tried to erase with it, but I think that's what it is made out of, is that it's just like an eraser. And I am going to take a piece of carbon paper, and I'm going to set it on here. And I'm going to put this on here. And then I'm going to tape it at the top, getting both layers and the carving block underneath. And that should hold it long enough for me to draw the pattern. I'm not going to do the letters. I was just kind of, I don't really know if I want to put words on here or not, or if I just want it to be. And so I am just going to trace over the lines. And sometimes I can't even do that. I'm going to move the block, not my finger. Now there's likely to be a big old fingerprint on the carving block where I have pressed so hard, but that won't matter. Because all of that will be carved away. And it did not work. Wow. I'm surprised. Okay. It's just not going to work. Okay, well, that's all right. Always have a plan B in mind. But first I need to clean this off because I won't be able to tell my ink from the scratches that were made. I am just simply grabbing an alcohol wipe to wipe this off with. And I just happen to have a lovely paint rag, and I'll just wipe it. And actually, maybe what I'll do is just turn it over. That's a better idea. And I should mention, one of the fun things about these blocks is that you can actually carve on both sides, and then you have a two-sided stamp. And that gave me a really wide line, which is not a bad thing on this. Okay, now I want to... Now, I'm just going to... I think that's up too far. I'm not going to draw the wing in front of the heart. I am going to draw it so that there's no, so that it looks like it's just falling behind the heart. And that will become important in a little bit here. Now, I don't mind that there's a bit of variation. This is going to be a rustic piece. And I went over the heart, which I didn't mean to do. Okay, you'll see here is the way I wanted it, because actually I will be carving concave so that when this is pressed into the clay, that the heart is going to stick out of the medallion. And so will the wings, but the heart will stick out more than the wings. So it's like a recessive divot that I'm creating with this. Okay, and the tool that I'm using is a Speedball carving tool, and it has this wonderful end that comes off. And that's really nice, except for one of my major parts is not in here. So this is not going to go well. I am going to have to shut off the camera and find the rest of my, I think it's actually down in there, the rest of my tip, because there's a part that screws on here. So I'm back. Sorry about that. The top part that holds everything in place, I suddenly realized was in with the Dremel tool. And we were working earlier this summer on a steampunk bike and used about every tool we had. At any rate, this is, I don't know formally what they're called. This one is a straight edge, as opposed to this one is a V-shaped one that is really good for like going around edges. This one is more rounded, and there's several of the rounded ones, and those are really good for taking out the midsection, like when we get to the middle of this heart. But the first thing I'm going to do is to these just pull in and out, and I just put it in, and now I'm going to tighten it up. And the point is sharp, and then part of the edge on each side is sharp. It's kind of a leaf shape, and so you can get various cuts with it. What I'm going to do with it now is I'm going to use it with the round side down, because mainly I want to cut, my first cut is going to be around these edges, and I still do not know at this moment whether I want to recess any of this top part or not, but I know that kind of where I want to go with the wings and the heart, so I'm going to do that first. So I'm just going to make a cut along the line that I have drawn, and I sort of missed there, but that's all right. And you don't want to cut in too far to begin with. Mainly what I'm doing is making a spot that then I can go in with this very small V and do the relief on that edge, and then I can start from there. So I'm going to go ahead and just outline all of this with this tool. And it's not hard to cut. actually easier than running a pair of scissors. And it's probably the easiest thing you'll ever cut with an X-Acto knife. Make sure I'm in the camera's light. I'm going to stop there. Oh, actually, I want to do the edge of the heart. Okay, I think I got the whole thing outlined. Now this simply unscrews. And if you do it far enough, then this just pulls out. There we go. Okay, now I want to go in with this really small, it's a V-shaped, diamond-shaped, and there's a slot on the inside that it fits right into, and then it tightens up so you don't lose it while you're working with the tool. Okay, and I think that for my sanity, I'm going to do this edge of this heart first. I guess if I had to compare this cutting with something, I would say that it's like a block of hard cheese, like a block of cheddar cheese. So the biggest issue is not that you won't cut. The bigger issue is that you'll cut somewhere where you don't want to. And I don't know if you can see that yet or not, but we're definitely getting the outline of this winged heart. Now, corners can be a bit tricky. So if you saw what I did, I went right up to where my line was, and then I stopped. I didn't want to try and turn the corner. I came from the other angle. And for me, that's the way I have to do it, because I can't control the turn. So when I get up to this one, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. Now I'm going to come at it from this other direction. And I get a much cleaner cut than if I tried to make that corner. Before you carve on a more expensive, although I think these are about $8 or $9. But it's been a while since I priced them, but I think that's what they are. But that's kind of pricey to me. I would go get some cheap erasers and play with them. They are way fun anyway, and just to get the hang of the tools, and you'll catch on fast. Like I say, it's been probably a couple of years since I've cut any, and for one thing, this block is that old, and I definitely haven't forgotten how to do it, so that's a good thing. And it's very fun. I forgot how fun this is. I have to remind myself to cut away from myself, because if you cut towards yourself and the tool slips, it's like anything, you will get cut. So you don't want to take that chance. Okay, I think that what I want to do next is to go to the next size of the V cutter and go over those lines one more time. I know that may seem like I'm overworking those lines, but it seems to go easier for me if I have those lines very well in place. Now I'm trying to keep the cutter inside, so I'm taking more off the inside than the outside, because I really do not want this image to be any bigger than what the drawing was. And you notice that I just took a gouge out of the thing, and that's probably deeper than I wanted the wing to go. But that's not going to be a problem, because I'm going to be cutting away all of that inside. But that's why I really gouged that. Okay. Which is a nice time to say it's easy to take pieces of this off. It's impossible to put pieces back. Okay, this will get cleaned up with the next tool. But I think I have enough to go to the next tool. And it is a gouge. So it's not got the V, so it's not gonna, it definitely is still gonna put a deep cut in there. But it's not going to put as deep as the other one. It's more, and I'm holding it upside down, it's more rounded. Now, before I mess up the wings anymore, I really want to do the heart part. And for some reason today, I'm wanting to go deep. But you notice that outline that I did, it helps me to stop. So I'm not running this tool right into the edge that I wanted to save. And it does really work better if you go little at a time. You can always go deeper as you go along. For some reason, while I'm doing this, it reminds me of scooping snow. Now, I have the first layer gone. And what I want to attempt in this next layer is that I want, this is not going to be an even concave figure. It needs to be heart-shaped. So it needs to be thicker on the edges and deeper on the middle parts. And gradually so. So that's what I'm going to work on now, is making that recess kind of a natural, so that it's rounded, so that it's three-dimensional. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, if I was cutting this stamp primarily for paper, I would be concerned about cutting this back. Not so much worrying about that it's even, or that it is rounded, but I would be wanting to cut it back so that that part didn't touch the paper.
Call from Jarrickner, Mobile 1.
I can ignore that call. But I am on call, so if my pager goes off or if call comes from my work,
Jarrickner, Mobile 1.
I'm needing to go by feel because sometimes I can tell depth better by feel than I can by sight. Now, I also need to look over here at how deep I made this. I think I'm going to have to go deeper with the heart since I did that in order for the design to look right in my eye. I was kind of liking the level of that until I realized how deep that wing was going to have to be. So on these medallions that I'm going to make, this heart is really going to be sticking out. I'm doing a much lighter touch right at this moment because I'm cleaning up some of my tracks. I don't know how well you can see that. I don't mind that there's a little bit of texture in this. I really don't. This is going to be kind of a rustic piece. The clay that I made is, well, normally it's a white clay, but I threw in a secret ingredient, so it's a off-white color, a tan color, not okay. I think, yeah, this side is now deeper than this side. And I will be going back with one of the smaller V-shaped ones in a little bit to clean up this edge, because I do have, this edge is not okay with me. But for right now, we're going to try and do these wings. The camera automatically shuts off after a certain amount of time. It may be 10 minutes, I'm not sure. So that's what just happened. Apologize for that. I forgot how much I like doing this. I'm going to go a little deeper right here since it's deeper over here. If I hadn't gouged that so badly, I wouldn't do that. Okay, I think I can do that better with a smaller tool at this point. So I'm going to go back to the smallest one. Okay, and then I can clean up these edges along here. And reminding myself again and again that a light touch is what I need, not a... We are not peeling potatoes here. What I am trying to do is to clean up the edges, because everything on these will show. And although I kind of like the rough texture of the chisel marks, I don't like the grainy stuff on these edges. Although I do kind of like that, because that looks like, I wish I could do that on this side. Maybe I can. It looks like layers of feathers. Which would be kind of cool. I just seem to be making a mess. Okay, I think what I am going to do is to clean up this mess real quick. And thought I was going to grab a paintbrush, but all I see are wet paintbrushes. How is that possible? So again, we're going to use my rag here to try and get these crumbs out. So we can try it out and see how it's going to work. Now then, I am digging for a bottle of colored Pearl-Ex so I can dust the inside of this so that we can put some clay in it and then see how the image comes out. Because if we just do the clay, or if we use cornstarch on it, like I'm likely to do when I'm ready to make them, we won't be able to tell right away how the image does. So I'm digging in my drawer of stuff for and apparently I took a box of Pearl-Ex out of there. Yes, I did. Okay. And I just can't believe I don't have a paintbrush close, but that's life. Now, I can already see that this side is deeper than this side, but I really like that texture. I'm wondering if I'm going to like it once we do it with clay. So let me grab the clay that I made. And a piece of parchment, because the clay won't stick to the parchment paper. This is a new recipe of clay. I'm anxious to see how it works. I normally, for these kinds of things, use a recipe with cornstarch and baking soda, and it works really well. Well, this morning I didn't have enough baking soda to do that, and so I had been wanting to try a new recipe with cornstarch and PVA glue. I haven't ever done that before. So, so that's this recipe, and I will put it with a link to my blog on it down below the video. Okay, now is the moment of truth. I don't think that's too bad. I think that what I need to do is this one needs to be deeper and the edges need to be cleaned up. But other than that, and then I want to cut the block so that it's more the shape of what I would like the medallion to look like. And so I just need to do some cleanup work. So I think that's going to work well. I am going to do those things off camera, and I will come back with, because mainly I need to go wash this off now, and then I will come back later with the edges cleaned up and hopefully a finished medallion. Anyway, thanks for watching. Nancy from Spirit Creations.